Welcome to the video, everybody. Today I am answering your questions. It's probably been over a year since I've done a Q&A and the channel has grown so much. This is probably going to be a longer video. I'm going to do my best to be as succinct as possible, but apologies in advance if I get rambling. And you all left me a ton of great questions, so thank you so much for that. And without any further ado, I'm just going to dive right into it. First question, is the Air Travel Pack too small, good for one bag travel and everyday carry? I personally have the regular size over the small, so I can't speak from personal experience, but I do know that the layout of the small is the same as the large, and it definitely makes for a great travel bag, but I don't think it's as functional as a day pack. You could probably make it work, but if it were me, I would probably go for more of a day pack and use the day pack for traveling rather than using a travel bag for a day pack, if that makes sense. How do you take care of your sanity during the pandemic, especially now that people don't really travel that much? And most of all, how are you doing? A few different things that worked well for me. When I tend to get really stressed out about things, I will lean heavier on Stoic philosophy. And a lot of that, goes around being okay with some discomfort and recognizing situations that you don't have any control over and not letting them control you. Tons of great info out there about Stoic philosophy. If you want to dive in, Ryan Holiday is an author. He's wrote a ton of great books, so check those out if you haven't already. Another thing I really tried to focus on was shifting my hobbies and focuses more on indoor activities. I like to do a lot of traveling and a lot of camping and backpacking and all of that sort of stuff, and all of that went out the window. Those were my plans for last year, and obviously none of it happened. So I kind of had to shift my mindset around to things I could enjoy and embrace indoors inside of my apartment. I'm not ashamed to say I've leaned on some, good short-term pleasures. My wife and I have gotten really into making cocktails at home. I've developed my home bar and gotten really into mixology and craft cocktails and all of that sort of stuff. It's been a ton of fun. Another thing I have been really leaning into is video games. I grew up playing a ton of video games. I was a quiet indoor nerd, and over the past year I've played more video games than I have in probably the past 10. So that's been a ton of fun. I caught up on a few years worth of video games. I did a 100% playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2. I played through Skyrim, Witcher 3, ton of other great games. And so I had a ton of fun playing a bunch of video games that I would otherwise not really have the time for, or would choose over doing other things. So just, I've been trying to focus on all of the quality things in my life that I can still do instead of focusing on the things that I can't do. When do you say minimalism has gone too far for someone? Great question. I think it was the most upvoted in the thread here too. For me, minimalism is all about, reinforcing and improving your quality of life. And I think a lot of times there's this herd mentality where it's a competition within yourself and within the community of minimalism, where everyone feels like I have to do this because I'm a minimalist, or I can't do this because I'm a minimalist. And I think people need to just chill out a little bit and really focus in on the things that work for them. A really great analogy that is probably only going to work for a small amount of people, but for me, I've been getting back into backpacking stuff now that the weather's turning, and naturally with focusing on minimalism, the ultralight backpacking community is something I'm very much interested in. I saw a thread on there, someone was really embarrassed and guilty about carrying around, a 1 pound camping chair on their backpacking trip. I personally use a camping chair when I go backpacking too. But it's that sort of thing, where they wanted to carry it around, but they felt so guilty because it's not ultralight. I think that goes with a lot of minimalism things too. Pick and choose the things that fit and work best in your life, and don't worry about conforming to any specific labels or definitions that you might have built up in your head or the community has built up around you. There's a lot of toxicity in that, and that's one of my biggest gripes about the community as a whole. And if it wasn't for the YouTube channel here, where I do need to get my videos in front of the right eyeballs, so there is some marketing and labels that go into that, but in general I try and ignore the labels and just embrace the things that fit best into my life. Here in the UK, we're dreaming of the things we'll be able to do once we are free to and feel safe to. What is the thing that you are most looking forward to post-COVID? Loving your work. easy question for me, and that is backpacking and camping. Last year, you saw I posted a couple of videos on the channel, and I was getting all geared up, and I was planning on doing a ton of backpacking and camping trips last year. It's hilarious that the pandemic and social distancing stopped me from going on solo camping trips, but it did. A lot of the campsites and trails and all of that stuff was shut down. I also don't have a car, so public transit was something I would have had to use, and a ton of mess around that. But as we're getting into this year and things are easing up, I am getting so excited to get back out and spend some more time in nature again. The pandemic has been awesome for streamlining and decluttering many things, especially wardrobe, merino shirts every day for work on Zoom. But how do you decide when you have the right tool for the job and the search is over? Asking for a friend who has too many bags, pocket knives, etc. This is a great question, and I also feel like as I've gotten older, my mindsets have started to shift on a few different items. I find myself getting a little bit less excited for certain categories of things. Some new tech and some new other things I just don't really care as much about. The A7S III just came out a few months back, and the FX3 just came out as well. As far as camera gear is concerned, I used to always get so pumped up about camera gear, but I got my A7 III a few years back, and it works really well for me, and I really don't have a ton of desire to go rush out and replace it. On the flip side of that, though, I also love, getting new things and trying new things and testing new things. I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm always reviewing and trying new backpacks for the channel, and EDC items and watches and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. But for me, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but I think it's important to make sure that you maintain that smaller inventory. I'm someone that does pretty regularly buy and sell things. I try and buy a lot of used things too, so I'm not necessarily wasting extra production of items. If you find something new that you think might work better in your life, don't feel guilty if you can afford it and you have the space for it. Maybe just get rid of whatever it's replacing, donate it or sell it. For me, it's kind of something when you know, and things are always changing as well, but I wouldn't feel guilty or bad about that as long as it's not cluttering up your life unnecessarily. Just get rid of the old thing, bring in the new thing, and keep going from there. Hi Josh, thank you for your content. How to be a minimalist and live frugal when you have a baby. First off, I don't have kids, so I'm speaking from the perspective of someone that doesn't have kids. I know people have actually asked this question in the past. I can't remember what video it was, but there's a really great thread of advice from some minimalist parents. I wish I could find it. If I do in the edit, I'll put a link or something. But don't worry too much about it. Focus on the things that you can keep minimal, and there's just inherently going to be some issues with, you're gonna have some clutter, you're gonna have some extra stuff. A baby has a lot surrounding it that you're going to need. I would definitely check out, I'm positive there's going to be some frugal and or minimalist parents on YouTube. Try and seek those out, find them. Someone leave it in the comments if you know of any. But just do what you can and don't stress too much. Like I said, don't worry too much about the labels. You got to do what you got to do. Your life's always going to be changing and you're going to have to adapt to it. Without having a baby myself, that's about the best advice I can give for you. How to have a better relationship with food and how to limit binge eating. Excellent question and a difficult one for sure. As most of you probably know, if you've seen my old videos or heard me mention it in the past, I lost 140 pounds and have maintained that weight loss now for over 5 years, I believe. It took me a long time and a lot of years and a lot of knowledge and a lot of personal introspection to get to the place where I am now. I've never felt more comfortable with my relationship with food, and I've never felt more comfortable about my weight, and I've never felt more comfortable about maintaining my weight. That came with a lot of effort and practice and failure in the process. Some of the bigger things for me was being more mindful with my eating, recognizing, when I'm eating because I'm hungry or when I'm eating because I'm bored or the food sounds good. And so that was a big part of it. And I think another big part of it that, kind of gets a bad rap in the diet and weight loss communities. I'm a huge advocate for tracking your calories. I don't think it's something that needs to be done permanently, but I think there are a significant amount of people out there, myself in the past included in this, that just don't really have a good grasp on what calorie amounts are in different foods and don't really understand, you burn a certain amount of calories each day, so you should eat a correlating amount of calories, and that's how you maintain your weight. You eat less food if you want to lose weight, you eat more food if you want to gain weight. But I think with that knowledge of how calories work within your body, and also that knowledge of knowing a pretty good estimate of calorie counts in different foods, you can start to make smarter and more informed choices. And then over time, over the years, it just kind of becomes second nature. It's like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. You don't necessarily need to think a lot about those things, but you just do them to maintain your body and maintain your health. And don't get me wrong, I love food, I love cooking, I love eating. I don't think you have to suck the joy out of food to get to a healthy spot, but it just takes a lot of time and introspection and recognizing and informing yourself about different foods and about how you act around those foods. Getting out of debt on a minimum wage job and while in school full-time may be something other than side hustles. If you don't want to work on any sort of side hustles, you have two other options. Find a new job that's going to pay you more, or spend less money. That is the key to balancing the books. You make more or you spend less. So if you don't really have any time for side hustles, really look at your life and do what you can to spend less. It can be really difficult. My wife and I have cut back, with losing money last year through coronavirus, and I took a big pay cut when I first started going full time with the video work and the YouTube channel. So it definitely takes some self-control, but you got to make more or you got to spend less. Hi Josh, thank you for your videos and content. You make financial investments and what styles? Sorry for my approximate American. I'm watching you from France and learn American on YouTube. Great question, and don't worry about your grammar. You are doing just fine. I know plenty of Americans that have way worse grammar than that. Good question though. I do have some investments. As I have taken down my income a little bit over the past few years, I don't have a ton of money. I'm not one of those crazy people that just, casually have, $100,000 in Robinhood and $100,000 in Bitcoin and stuff. But I do have some money invested into cryptocurrencies. I got in on that in 2017, kind of right before that huge spike, and have been kind of following and tracking and investing what I can since. So I do have some crypto investments, and then I do have a retirement IRA account. Not a ton of money in there, but it's definitely something, and I'm hoping to grow that more over time. What are your favorite and least favorite things about Portland? My wife and I are considering the move from the Chicago suburbs. That's awesome. I also love Chicago. Fun fact, my wife and I almost moved to Chicago from Detroit a few years before we ended up moving out here. I definitely pick Portland over Chicago any day, so take that for what it is, just right off the bat. Favorite thing about Portland is just the proximity to nature. The Pacific Northwest is gorgeous, and I'm doing my best to explore it as frequently as I can. Especially without a car, it gets a little difficult to get out to some of the spots, but I do what I can and however frequently I can. But yeah, definitely the nature out here is absolutely incredible. And the close proximity is the thing that is crazy compared to the Midwest, in Chicago or Detroit. And we have a lot of great nature in that part of the country, but it takes, 8, 10, 12 hours to drive to here. I'm an hour and a half away from getting to the coast and some of the most beautiful coastal scenery you'll ever see. A couple hours from the desert, hour or two from the mountains. There's just so much great nature out here. I can't get enough. When it comes to least favorite things, I would have to say, over the past few years, the homeless situation in town has gotten completely out of control. A lot of mental health issues, a lot of drug use. A lot of the city has tents and campers out there full time, and it's definitely a bummer. And it seems like the city doesn't know what to do about it or how to fix it, and that gets really frustrating. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest negative. Other than that, the people are really great. The food is great, the nature is great, but yeah, the homeless situation is definitely a concern. And since I moved out here in 2016 to now, it's crazy how much worse it's gotten. I don't know what to ask. How you doing? I'm doing pretty well. Kind of answered earlier, but yeah, this year I've been really trying to refocus and simplify my workflow and all of my productivity and just kind of my lifestyle in general. I'm trying to simplify and focus, and yeah, so far it's been going really well, and excited for the year, excited to get out camping and backpacking. Like I talked about, I've been completely obsessed in the planning stages right now. Is essentialism and minimalism the same thing? From my very basic understanding, it's basically the same thing. I've looked a little bit into essentialism, and yeah, a lot of it just sounds like it's a subset of minimalism on its own. And you all know how I feel about labels. If it wasn't for the channel here with me trying to get my videos into the right eyeballs, I have to use a lot of those labels kind of against my preferences a lot of times. But if it wasn't for that, if I was just, a regular person going about my minimal living, I wouldn't even worry about it. You do you. Ignore the labels. What are some things that you wish you knew in your early 20s? My first initial gut reaction would be not to make fun of my friend Sean for buying Bitcoin at $300 because he missed the mark, and it's too expensive now. Now that's at $50,000 or $60,000 or whatever it is today. I remember laughing so hard at him for buying Bitcoin. Anyway, in all seriousness though, don't be afraid to pursue your passions. It's something I didn't really need at that point in time. When I was in my early 20s, I was in a rock band. We were touring around our state and touring around the country, playing music, having a great time. And some of the best years of my life doing that for sure. But I think some people do need that reminder to jump and pursue those passions, take risks. Don't be afraid to do so. You're very young, you have lots of time. Even me at 31 right now, I'm young and have lots of time, and I'm still doing that, obviously, working on YouTube and stuff here. But yeah, don't be afraid to pursue your passions. And another thing too, don't be afraid to change your mind on things. I feel like I've become 4 or 5 different people over and over again over the past decade since my early 20s. And a lot of people get stuck and think that I have to do this because this was the plan. Don't be afraid to adapt or change. 10 years ago, I had no idea about any of the stuff I would be doing right now. And I'm very happy that I decided to take that plunge and do it. Outside of that, be confident in yourself. There's definitely, as I've gotten older, there was a confidence that grows in myself, and I tend to care a little bit less and less about what other people think of me or my actions. I think it just kind of comes with age, and I'm far from perfect on that too. But yeah, embrace what you want to be doing and don't be afraid to take those risks. What videos have you enjoyed making the most? Good question. I always, I enjoy all the videos I make, or else I wouldn't make them. As kind of obvious, but definitely true. I have a ton of different topics and things I cover around here, and it's really just stuff I'm thinking about or interested in. And I've realized over time, this is year 6 of me on YouTube, I've realized over time, if I'm not passionate about it, it's gonna make for a bad video, and I'm going to not enjoy making it. So I've really been trying to lean into just making stuff that I wanna enjoy, and hopefully making stuff that I want to make that you will also want to watch. That being said, I really love, any of the carry, like EDC type of videos, or the tech bags, or the travel bags, backpacking loadouts. I like doing all of that packing and planning sort of stuff and putting it out. It's a ton of fun for me. You all really love it, so that definitely helps boost me up when I make those videos. Also, anything I make outdoors, which hasn't been that frequently lately, but getting back out on some more camping and backpacking this year, so you should see some more outdoor type of stuff in the coming months and throughout the year. Related comment, I'd like to see more tech videos. Not really a question, but definitely noted. I enjoy making the tech videos too, so yeah, I'll make them as I get new tech for sure. I struggle with time management and procrastination. What's a good method to push through it other than trying my hardest to push through it? I'm tempted to stop a lot of distractions, and I'm overwhelmed with a lot of good content to the point where I don't want to do anything but be a viewer instead of a creator. I've actually tried to put the words together in my head to make a video about this for over a year now and still haven't really cracked the code. I don't know if anyone else's brain works like that. I'm really bad at words and writing, and I have, my brain is full of ideas and imagery and that sort of stuff generally, so I have a tough time being eloquent with what I'm trying to say pretty often. It's a difficult balance to get that consuming versus creating balance in your life, and this can extrapolate to any sort of field or just living in general. I think a lot of people should be focusing more on creating things, relationships, products and business type of things, hobbies and interests, art, things like that. I think people need to invest their time and energy into creating and building up good things in their life, whatever that might mean for them. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of recognizing what doesn't work for you and trying to come up with an alternate solution. If you hate doing it, you're probably not going to do it. And if you hate doing it, maybe evaluate a different way you could do it and enjoy it, or have it be a little more effective for you, or look for a different path and something different entirely. That being said, I struggle with this all the time. I feel like every week is like crunch time on coming up with topics for the YouTube channel, and that's something I really struggle with and have difficulty with as well. But really try and focus on creating things that you want to create. I'm not sure if I think you have a YouTube channel, maybe you have an icon there and stuff, so it sounds like maybe that's what you're wanting to talk about. But yeah, make what you want to make, and if you're really getting stuck or struggling, I think a lot of it's a matter of like mindset and deep down not wanting to do something. Work around and figure out what would make that more enjoyable to do, or what could replace that would be more enjoyable for you. That's it for all the questions though. Thank you all so much. I always have a pit in my stomach when I do Q&As that no one's gonna leave any questions, and you all blew me away way more than probably ever before, so I really appreciate the questions and the support on the channel. On that note too, I would love to hear what types of videos that you see on the channel here that you really enjoy and would like to see more of, maybe topics that you'd like to see me covered. I'm always interested in hearing your input on the direction of the channel. The views and the likes really dictate the directions I go. I enjoy making a lot of different things, so I definitely don't mind shifting things around to what is best for all of you as much as it is for me. So let me hear what types of things you'd love to see in the future, and I will definitely make a note of it. And thank you all so much for the support though. I will talk to you next week.